like you can't be taking your foot off the gas while you're busy.
No,
you
that's
know,
right.
like that is when you need to be trying the most to get more work in to cover those times when you're.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Welcome to the Outside Crowd podcast. Back again with Ryan,
Yo.
Billy,
Hello.
me, JB, and what are we talking about today? We are talking about those situations when you look at your bank account as a little business and you find too much money's going out. You're hemorrhaging money. Has that happened with you guys? What can we do about it? How can we give some advice to people who may be having that problem? So I suppose the first thing, throwing it out, have you ever had that? Or you just get the cash and it's flying in?
Yeah, I'd say it's in the process of happening right now.
What, cash flying
Yeah,
in?
yeah, not cash flying in. Fucking hell, no. Yeah, I'd say it's very difficult at the moment, definitely. But I suppose it's taking a look at, why it's happening and what you can do about it. I think we had a very good conversation the other day about, like, first of all, I didn't actually know exactly how much I needed to make every single month before I made any sort of money, which is ridiculous, obviously. But
It is ridiculous.
I had a number in my head and it wasn't what it was, And I suppose, like, when you have fucking hell, I can't speak. On the plan of the actual, you'll have all of the monthly costs spread over a year annually, and then if you divide that by 12, obviously you're going to get your, and then you include that in it, and then sometimes it's easy to forget that, and you can get yourself into situations, which I think I've had at the beginning of the year, where those costs that you're expected to be averaged out annually have all happened in once.
Yeah.
Like, for example, all my vehicle costs seem to happen at the beginning of the year, regardless. I've got every single truck having its MOT at the same time of year. That always undoubtedly costs the same costs a lot of money at the same time as our MOT, because the truck's out of action. We like to have it serviced at the same time. That's another cost. And then just lots of repair things. Over the Christmas period when we have a bit of a break, that's the time when we spend a bit of money to get all of our things repaired and whatnot, and so you have all the costs there. And then if you're still making the same amount of money, and sometimes even like we're in spring now, this is not our busiest time of year. We're starting to get there now, but we've just come out of a time when it really has been quite dead, and the new inquiries are not coming in. And also, because of that, everyone seems to be putting, when I say everyone, I'm talking about other small tree surgery businesses, seem to be putting their prices down. And it seems to be a bit of a race to the bottom, which I know isn't a good idea. You're dealing with less money coming in and more money going out, because there's a lot. My monthly costs haven't changed. My insurance is still the same. We're advertising. In fact, we're paying more money for advertising now because we're trying to get more inquiries in. And yeah, it's pretty tricky. And like, as I said, like, it's what do you do about that? How can you get costs down? How can you bring more money in? And that's a whole conversation in itself.
That's what it is, eh?
Yeah.
I know what you mean, because it is. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the unforeseen as well. We've had one of the vehicles go in, and it cost double the amount like that was first priced, because they found something else in the meantime, and it's that comes out of the bank, and you think, okay, I didn't need that today, but it is what it is. If that price of what you need to bring in every day before that also does change, with staff changes and working on different things, it does change. Keeping an eye on that, because I think I need a review on that myself, how much we need to earn. But it's if you don't have that
it needs a review.
Definitely
what you do once and you're like,
oh shine,
you need to do it again all the time, don't you, really?
Absolutely know what it is, because it does. When it gets tight, it gets tight. And you think, need them invoices to be paid on time, because if not, shit could hit the fan very quickly. And if say for example there's a delay on a project, so the cash flow you are going to get an invoice for that project at a certain time. It's decisions were changed on a project means it slows everything up. And having to we talk about reacting or responding. Trying to respond to something like that going ahead when you're talking a big figure, you know, with bills coming out at the same time, you get yourself in a real pinch, and you've got to know if that's starting to happen, where you're spending more money than that's coming in, and what you've got to do about it, you know, and that's why the cash flow is so important, as JB has taught me over the years. It's like knowing that day, right, okay, we are going to be in trouble, then let's go now, you know, let's sort this out now. And, you know, it has been quite tight with things like that, changes on projects, and as they get bigger, as the projects get bigger, you know, it's even more dangerous. You know, it's even more dangerous.
I think our issues are probably, like, at the moment, they're very different, aren't they? Although they're a similar thing, like money coming in and trying to get stuff sorted, although it's the same. But mine is definitely like a seasonal thing. Yeah. And like this has been a real eye opener for me, because like we're a bit bigger now. Like everything's exacerbated. I think it's more money. Like I have to find all the time. And like, you know, the cost of living's gone up. I'm trying to pay people more money to cover that.
That's it. Yeah.
So like my expenses have gone up, and then obviously, as I said, the marketing and everything like that's gone up. So, and now the inquiries are not coming in as much. You know, we've had to slightly reduce our prices. You know, like I have done, but I'll put them back up again now because I've realised it's not helpful for anyone. But it's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. It was just me doing it without even, you know, thinking about it. Just getting
survival.
Trying to win jobs, basically. But you know, it's been an eye opener for me because it's been really tough. I'm like, this next year will not happen to me again. Like, and you know, if we are struggling for work and I'm having to put my prices down, then I need to be doing something else at this time of year alongside what we do. Like, what else can we do? And I will be spending the rest of this year preparing for this time next year, because I know that in a month's time, or whatever, we're going to be. I can already feel it happening now. Yeah, so important, man. I'm going to be so many inundated with calls, and the same thing will happen again. Because last year was one of the best years we ever had. Like, especially after that little period. I couldn't move for inquiries. I was quoting every single day. Well, you know, most of the time I am anyway, but it would be like, instead of 1 or 2 jobs a day, it was like 6 or 7 jobs every single day, just quoting them and winning so many of them. Yeah. And like, yes, you need to be prepared for the busy times, but also, as you always say, JB, like, you can't be taking your foot off the gas while you're busy. No, that's right. Like, that is when you need to be trying the most to get more work in to cover those times when you're. Yeah. And so I'm looking at doing my PTI course, which is professional tree inspector course. I want to get that done very soon, so I can start doing stuff with that, and that gets more work in. And then also getting commercial contracts, because they don't stop over spring; they're still going all the time. So that has to happen before this time next year, because otherwise I'll sink. You know, like it's.
Well, I think it's interesting because we're busy with quotes coming in, with work that's being accepted. We're busy, but so I'm finding the position we're in is being on a project that we're stuck due to changes, due to this, that, and it's trying to get, knowing that we've got so much work ahead of us, and having a cash flow from it is crazy. You know, it's crazy. It's like, it has a massive effect, because like you said, then daily costs don't go away. You know, so when things do change and they're not efficient, or, you know, whichever, it's responding in a way, it's like, right, we need this money coming in.
Do you have an overdraft?
Do I have an overdraft? No, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't. No, I've been very, very close to the place where I need one.
Yeah. I think a lot of businesses do, though, don't they?
They do. I don't believe I have. No, I don't have one of my businesses.
Because I don't have one. No. But I know, like, especially just listening to some other people recently who have, you know, large contracts, they'll often have, because of the payment terms are so different. They can be 30, 60, 90 days. Well, like, I'm used to getting paid pretty much on the day, if not the day after. Yeah. And if that changes, you know, I couldn't have all of our company on a job for 2 months and not get paid for 3. That would, well, I wouldn't be able to cover it.
Yeah, well, that's right.
And that also goes into having enough money into the account to cover these times, and like having that float is another thing I need to be working, because there's not enough money in the company at any one time to keep us going through several months of bad times.
Well, that's what I think. It definitely was my aim at the beginning of this year, to have that, having a 3 months working and in the bank. And I said that to everyone. I was like, right, this is what we're planning to do. And I've noticed now, having some delays on projects due to changes. It's about, for me, it was like, okay, this week we've got it, then next week we're going to start this, and it changed that week, and it's amazing what only 1 week can do. I mean, I've got this in the bag. I'm like, this is fine, this is perfect. that's changed. We've decided that we're going for this, bang, and there's another thing that's happened, and I'm like, when that one happened in the beginning, that's when it should have been nipped in the bud and gone, right, no, this is going to cost, X, Y, and Z, because if we don't get this sorted, this is going to happen to me, within the company. It's making sure you're very aware of that them orange flags, not red flags.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because just sort of sitting here listening, the first thing I always keep thinking is, recognising that if there's a cash problem at any time, it's recognising it or being aware of what's coming up. So if you've got your cash flow sorted out, I know you have a plan V actual and you can see roughly what's supposed to be going each month, but the idea is like you monitor each month as you're going forward. So if you get into a new month and you say you have like your management meeting, you sit down and you say, well, what's coming up for this month? So are there any additional repairs that we've got to do? Sometimes they're just unforeseen things that happen. But if there are other things that you think, okay, we've got to program that in, we've got to bring that forward, then you can adjust your cash flow to see what's likely to happen.
That's right. Yeah.
And you can start also to see, well, what work have we got? How much am I going to have to invoice to cover these costs? So it's starting to, at the beginning of the month, to have a look ahead and see what do you need, what's likely to be spent out and what's likely to be coming in, so that then you can make as much decision. Because first thing is, have you got enough money coming in to pay all those bills? If you haven't, then there's a whole load of decisions that can be made around that. If there is enough work, but maybe it's not been programmed in effectively, you can do what you do, Bill, change the programming round slightly, to make sure you're eking out as much work in the month as possible. You have a slight different situation, Ryan, if you've got like big job, because you might be thinking, okay, that's programmed for 2 months worth of work. You get on site and someone starts dicking you around and everything's changing and you can't crack on. Yeah. And that's slowing everything down.
On that, that's right. Because I did learn from previous years where, I did stay on the one job to, as it were, to be like, right, we're here, we're doing it. I need you to make decisions, and none of these decisions were made, because it had to go back through designers, it's one of those. It's and these things do happen, but understanding that, hang on a minute, I need to look after number one here. This is, and so we did pull a project forward, and I said there was a small project that I said, right, we're going to go do this until we make the decision, and decisions were made. It was okay, we need to make decisions. Yes, you do, and I don't need to justify how much of effect they have on my business.
It does.
And it's like
it has an awful big effect on, because it's like, if you look at it, if you programmed a job for 20 working days, if a client then after the first couple of days says, oh, we're not sure what type of slabs we're going to need or where we're going to have this brick wall, if that delays you by 2 or 3 days, so they're trying to sort out where they want the design, if you think about how much overheads you pay each day, that's what you're not recovering.
Yeah.
And even so if you said to them, okay, so every day where we're not being productive, we want our overheads paid, clients would soon be jumping up and down. And this is what gets me, because I reckon most landscapers probably don't charge enough for their variations as they should do.
And I know that as a fact, because I probably still don't. But talking to other landscapers, it's interesting to have that conversation where we think we're just in the garden getting it done, we need to get it done, and then we think, why did we? Oh, because we just wanted to get it done.
And then also you want to win it, don't you? As well.
Well, I suppose when you're on the job already and something changes, the hardest thing is you always, the client's going, that you're very aware that you don't want to give them a big bill because they just think, oh, you're the bloody builder ripping me off. But if you turn around to them and said, hang on, we got 20 days to do this job. By the end of 5 days, we're supposed to have the groundworks done and all the footings and everything in. We haven't done that because you can't tell us where the bloody brick wall's supposed to go.
How do you get around that then?
Because what you do is, if you know when you're supposed to complete the groundworks, you're monitoring that with your actual time. So you're recording it on your timesheets. And then if you haven't got, by the end of that week, and you haven't completed it, and there's a valid reason why you haven't completed it because of the client. Because, say, for example, they haven't given you the mark out for where the setting out for where your wall should be. You've then immediately got a disruptive event which you can pin the additional time that you're taking to complete that work. So if it then takes you an extra 2 days, you would legitimately, within your variation, to say, well, there's been a change to the scope, the position of the wall's changed. As part of that, we have not been able to commence. We can't up and go off to another job. We can't, we're still incurring our overheads. That gets included within your variation.
Yeah.
On large construction projects, what you do, they would have like overheads and profit claims, which were usually the most spurious things going. I know because I did goodness knows how many of them. And they used to do them on a formula method and things like that. But it's a legitimate thing. And especially if you're doing one project at a time, you can show that because of this event, we couldn't complete that work because you dicked us around and we've been effectively not working productively. But the hardest thing is trying to explain that to a lay client because they don't understand.
The thing is, that's what's really interesting me, and that's right. But that's why on this occasion, I explained that hey, we haven't decided this, so we are not going to be efficient. So we will not continue until we sort this out. It's all in hand, and we're here waiting. We're ready to go. Like we're ready to, we are ready to attack this when things decide. But we can't move until you decide this, and this is not.
And you're running up a cost.
Yes, and it's costing me, which I did send T's and C's over to say you then incur costs. So, because we're at a point where I could go, hang on, we're not, it was at the beginning of the project, it was like, right, okay, hang on. And because, I want to do a good job, I want to do the job, that's what we want to do. We don't want to give our clients a big, massive bill for something, it's like, so I went, right, we took the team and we went to a project that needed to be done. We jumped onto that.
Yeah.
Client jumped up and down, are you going to charge me? It's like, well, no, like I explained, no, because I've gone over here, because we could have done.
Yeah, because you could offset that work. But
I wish I never did it because now it's, I'm sitting there saying, well, hang on a minute, I could have just sat here. We are totally in our right to stand here and go, okay, well, let's doodle around with the
I mean, there's always an obligation to try and mitigate the loss. If there's something else you can do, in place of that, then that's just the general obligation to try and say, okay, well, I don't want to charge you for this. But in a lot of cases, you can't up sticks and go somewhere else. You might not have that job available. It might just be totally impractical. You still might have plant that's on hire and it's being extended because of the delay. But all that stuff, if it's a client delaying event, and I know the variation clause that you've got, if that would allow you to recover any of the costs that have been changed by the client. If it was, for example, you decided, oh, look, I don't really want to put that brick wall here. I'm going to put it over there because it's a bit easier for me, and it ends up taking longer. You couldn't then go back to the client and charge extra money.
Yeah.
But if it was like they've said, okay, you've now got to move it from here to there and all the disruptive working that goes in, that's just got to be recorded on your timesheet against a specific event, priced up, and then you give the bill to the client and they go, fuck. And they go, you're ripping me. And you go, no, you're not. These are the timesheets. This is what we had to do. Bloody, bloody, blah. And it's all a case of keeping records. It really is. It's a shit job.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And but you do have a chance to do it. And even like I say, even if you keep voice notes every day, it's the only way you've got to try and protect yourself. Because if you haven't got those records or any sort of, contemporaneous data, then you are going to be struggling. And this is what happens with it's not just, small companies. It's like big contractors do it.
Yeah.
They just go, and I've seen so many go down the pan and go pop because of it.
Yeah.
And it's, and I have a lot of sympathy for the contractors and that, because they always want to try and do a good job and they never want to overcharge the client.
Yeah.
But if the client realised how much it's actually costing you, they would, I don't know. And this is also, I imagine this is a shout out for designers. If you've got a designer designing the job, your designer should be at least getting your client wised up as well and saying to them, yeah, look, if you change this is going to cost you a fuck of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, that's what you expect from your designer as well. And the designers should also appreciate that if they change something, there's going to be a big cost effect.
Yeah.
You know, and once again, we had it loads of times. You get problems caused by architects, structural engineers, because their information was rubbish.
Yeah.
And, you know, and most of them didn't want to upset the client. Don't want to upset the client. And they'd always then pin it on the builder. Get this done, sort this out. Oh, we're not paying you for that.
No.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
But if you're working on a job with a designer, you want a designer who's going to have your back.
Yeah.
And in the same way that you have their back, because
that's right.
most of the time they don't give you design details. You're the one who does the detailing and sorts it all out for them. So you want a designer who's got your back.
I think that's a very good point. I think that's a very, very good point, because I definitely you're absolutely right. And I think it's when something like that happens, it does, you know, it's a shit job having to do the time, having to take this, having to, you know, and then suddenly it being the job, you know, the fun, the enjoyment being sucked out of it due to the fact it's like, I'm not trying to rip you off. I'm just trying to do the job. No. Why am I not? I'm honest.
Yeah.
You know, and the way we're being treated is not honest. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. Why do I need to do this? So, you know, I will be definitely, you know, anytime I have a gut feeling in any project, I will not be doing the project, because it's not worth my time. I'm not interested. I don't, if there's a gut feeling on something like that, I stress, and when I say a gut feeling, I mean on clients or with designers, or even if it's shown with you once, if something happens and you think, oh, didn't like that, don't do the work again. You don't, finish what you started, do what you need to do. But for me, like if a designer didn't have my back one time, I wouldn't work with them again.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think you're right on things like that. But I mean, it wouldn't let it put you off, because half of this all construction, that there's always shit jobs. There always are. The only thing you can do is like have those procedures all the time
to make it
to keep on top of it. And the biggest thing is monitoring progress. So if you can then, because it's good for you, it's good for the project as well, because if you then know how many days you allowed for your dig out, and then your timesheets will then say, well, it's actually taken us this, you can start monitoring your own efficiency. And if you can then say, oh, it's taken more because they've changed something, or we've hit something in the ground which you weren't expecting, then you know there's something you can pin back on the client.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, all this thing, I mean, going back to the whole thing with like, you know, like if you're hemorrhaging money as a general thing, I mean, I will be trying to make sure your cash flow, first of all, is having a look, trying to see how serious an issue is it. Is it one of these things where you're regularly losing money, or is it just like a seasonal implication? Is it something like that? Because then you know, you have a better chance of dealing with it. But there's lots and lots of things. And I think the big thing is, if, say, for example, you had a company was in a position where they all of a sudden, I don't know, they just weren't monitoring anything, and they couldn't, say, for example, pay their VAT bill, or they couldn't pay something really important. And then you've got to take some, not drastic action, but you've got to start, hang on, let's go back and see exactly what is happening, and try and do something as quick as possible. So, and it's also, because it's not also, the other thing is, it's not just cost side. You hemorrhage money as well, because maybe you're not getting as much value out of it, which is a bit like we're saying about not getting out of enough out of the variations that you're charging. The other thing, I suppose, with you, Bill, is also this bit, making sure you're squeezing, because you do smaller jobs, squeezing as many jobs into the time period as you've got, because effectively your cost is probably fairly flat, isn't it? Once you've got all your labour, you might get the odd thing going. But if you pay for your labour, you know you're doing that for the whole month. If you can squeeze another job in, even if you then at that point decided to knock a few quid off it, you at least know that's adding to your bottom line. Although I'd never say compete on price. But if you have to, but you could then do it on your terms. And it's like trying to fill up, because the first thing is then seeing, are you getting enough work through all this? Are you, is enough quotations? If you've got lots of quotations out there and no one's come back, you could then say, oh, well, your lucky day, I'll give you a special discount if you let us do this job
with our shirts off
this week. With your shirts off. Yeah, as long as it's only your shirts.
Or the client shirt off.
I was looking at somebody.
I was looking.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole load of things. it's one of these things. Once you start scratching the surface, there's so many things that can affect why you're not getting money in.
Often multifaceted, isn't it?
It is. It can be things like like we talked before about doing free extras and stuff. Oh, can you just?
Can you just?
And that's costing you time, and it's costing you, essentially another day for doing a can you just is another, I don't know how much on your overheads that you're not recovering, and you've then got to recover that in a shorter period of time through the year.
We were talking about that today. We were just saying how a big part of our job is just managing could you justs.
Yeah. What do you call it? You call it something, didn't you?
CYJ, could you just?
Oh, CYJ,
yeah. And
Why
I was
do you
like,
just call them
today,
and say, fuck off, we can't?
she asked me to do there was several other could you justs, and then there was but just topped out this hedge, and then she was like, oh, I'm really sorry, can you bring it down? And I was like, do you know what? No worries. She's lovely.
Yeah.
She's made us loads of cups of seats. I was like, I'm going to do that for you.
All down.
Oh, I'm not doing that one. I'm not doing that one. This is fuck me. It's 4 o'clock. I'm like, come on. So it's just managing the could you just,
It's a folk. Fuck off, we can't.
Fuck off, we can't.
Well, I mean, I think the can you just as well refers not just to
the could yous.
The could yous. Yeah, that's right. It's it's not on site either. I think there's a point where it gets to where could you just supply me a price for this? Could you just supply me a price for that? In the how many changes there are within your quoting. If you quote a project and suddenly, it's within that. Oh, actually, can you price it for like this? It's like, well, you've accepted this work.
Yeah.
This is like, well, hang on a minute. I can't get on with the work because I need to be doing this and liaising with you on this, and I should be doing this. So then, on that occasion, it's like, well,
that is a really difficult one because the client might want something changed, and it's like it's stopping you from doing your work. You're running around like a blue ass fly trying to find them samples or stuff for other bits of materials, and it's they don't realise that, and it's like that's why I think so much of it should be built into the variation cost, but also it's trying to educate clients maybe at the outset through some sort of meeting to say, look, if you're going to change anything and we've got to do this, it's costing us time and money.
Yeah.
We're going to have to price this somehow within the change. If you change things, if you don't change anything, fine.
That's it.
Any overruns, they're all down to us.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And I'm, you never. I mean, if it's down to you, how many times have you ever charged? Do you know what I mean? You don't. I mean, I think I was talking to someone one time, and I said, do you know what? I didn't price this side of it into. I think it was very first started. I didn't price into it, and they said, you know what, Ryan? To be honest with you, I was really young, and they said you were the third quote. You were quite cheap. To be honest with you, we were going to give you something extra anyway, because I never charged for it. I was like, oh shit. So I just got it, said, sorry, I'm actually going to be here for another day. I did it, and they just, at the end of the day, they said, look, bless you, you said he's just started, but, that's the way it is. It's like...
I mean, everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to do their best and do a good job for everyone. But at some point, it's like, I always think it's making those decisions based on how much. If you've got plenty of money in the bank and you can afford to do it, then you can be a bit more flexible. Mm-hmm. But if cash is tight and everything is like that, and there's lots of changes, the only way you can make an informed decision about what you do is by just being really tight on your money, monitoring the costs all the time, and it's a ball ache.
Yeah.
But you have to do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't know. Have you made enough on your job? Are you on time on your job? Have you, all those sort of things. It's like job cost and there's company-wide costs you've got to look at as well. It's just a consistent job of just sitting there and monitoring.
It is,
shit.
yeah.
That's why I fucking hate your quantities. After all, you suddenly realise it's like,
hang on a minute.
They're a pain in the arse. And then you've got to have an argument with someone about it.
Yeah.
So it was. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing as well. The justification, standing there going, I don't have to justify myself here. This isn't. What are you talking about? Like, this isn't.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah. It's but that's the tiring bit. That is the tiring bit.
Yeah.
We all sound very tired. Wow. So,
I'm absolutely knackered, to be fair. So ever since I've had to squeeze all this work in, I'm fucking working every day on the tools. It's doing my fucking backing, shoulders gone.
Getting old here, Bill.
Knackered, mate. I'm absolutely knackered.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm going to lay down. I may
I
lay
may
down.
lay
I
down.
don't blame you. I don't blame you. Crikey.
Right then.
So, are we happy though?
Yeah.
Are we glad we're in the outside game?
Absolutely. I think. I mean, to be fair, I was talking.
I think I would have got in finance or something like that.
Would you?
If I did my time again, I would have said to my parents, "Can I go to private school?" I would have got chumney with Benedicts and the boys, and I would have done all my.
What do you mean you're
financial
not
things.
chummy with them
I'm
now?
mates with you, you fucking scrub. That's why I'm here. And I would have.
The mighty have fallen.
Yeah, and I would have done some sort of financial thing, and I would have just, worked in the city and just earned shit tons of money, retired at 50, and then I'd be getting in you to do my landscaping.
And you'll be the
I'm
one
changing the scope 24/7. Now look at me, fucking 30, fucking stink like shit with these chainsaw trailers, tired, no money. Don't do it.
But apart from that,
It's fucking class. It's good. Apart from that, I'm just putting your leg. No, it's good. It's obviously good. It's a constant learning curve, isn't it? Managing money is a constant, and as we say this all the time, it doesn't come naturally to us. There's so much you have to think about, and quite often you are just thinking about fucking getting the job done, you know, and getting the money in, and you're trying to do the right thing, and before you know it, it gets away from you. But it shouldn't be like that.
I think that's an
constantly managing it.
very important
very
thing. Is
important.
anyone like listening? If they're in that situation where they think something is getting away from them, talk to someone as soon as possible, because it's like if you can catch a problem before it gets too big, then you have something to do with it. But you don't want to get to that position where it's like you can't afford bills, you can't do this, you can't afford that, and then someone might just say, wind you up basically, or put you under. It's like you don't want to be in that position. If you're still in the game, that's the important thing. And it's like you can make decisions. If you think you've got problems, address it early. Talk to someone. Talk to everyone has an accountant. Talk to their accountant at least. If you talk to business advisors, great. Not plugging for work or anything like that. Anyone, it's talking to anyone. Just to make sure, because you don't want to bury your head in the sand. You've got to actively do something about it. Because there are always ways around it. There's making agreements with creditors, and all this types of stuff. There's loads of things that you can do. But don't bury your head in the sand, and because money problems can quickly build. And we don't want anyone, going under. Lots of work probably coming up in the summer, all that type of stuff. It's probably going to be a good year. So make sure you're still in the game. That's the important thing.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Anyway, right then. So that's about it. Tales of Woe from here.
Tales of Woe, name of the podcast. Tales of Woe.
So on that, you haven't got a word for the day, have you, Bill?
Sorry,
You haven't got a word of the day, have you?
Go on.
I can't think of any words right now.
What about
unctuous?
Oh,
You know the word unctuous?
well, you're going to tell us.
I hope so.
Unctuous. This is got literally. I don't even know why I've just thought of this word. But the word unctuous means like oily, and like if something's like like an oily, creamy sort of texture when you're eating it. They call it unctuous.
Nice.
Yeah.
Why are we friends? Try ask me to spell it.
I don't know how you fucking spell it.
Right, and on that, after sitting with these two unctuous, oily-looking guys,
I think that's what it means. We'll have to double check that, because I don't know. You just asked me on the spot.
well, you're an intelligent guy.
Before we leave,
he's checking it now.
Unctuous. Oh yeah. Well, actually, it's actually not quite having a greasy or soapy feel, or excessively flattering, or ingratiating, oily. He seemed anxious to please, but not in an unctuous way. Oh, so you can use it as of a person as well.
Nice.
That is nice.
We learn things.
Well, you learn
So
that.
it is oily, but you can call someone overly unctuous.
Overly
If
unctuous.
he's a bit oily and greasy.
Yeah, that's it. You don't want to become overly unctuous when you're giving